You know, every time I come to this congregation, I'm struck by what a diverse and inclusive group we are. And while we are quite remarkable in that way, that kind of diversity also tends to characterize many UU congregations. But because of all that diversity, some people might wonder what exactly it is that makes one a Unitarian Universalist. So I have a few possible answers. I think you might be a Unitarian Universalist if the money you sent to a nonprofit or political cause last year was more than you spent on your family at Christmas. Or you might be a Unitarian Universalist if the vanity license plate on your electric vehicle reads Emerson or Thoreau. And you definitely would be a Unitarian Universalist if you think that the Holy Trinity is reduce, reuse, and recycle. But seriously, folks, we UUs do have some very basic, essential things in common. We freely and willingly join with one another to observe and adhere to the values and principles that we hold dear. The values on the graphic in front of me here, and the principles that we also prominently display on the banners behind me. And that's a pretty big deal. What's more, I think all we UUs strive to do our best to observe and adhere to the truth. Truth as it has been revealed to us by our own experience and by our knowledge of history and science. And we also seek insight from the wisdom literature that comes to us from a range of traditions all over the planet. And as we are doing here today, we come together and we join in community. And then, if and when we are individually able, we commit to providing service to the larger good. And I think it's important to acknowledge that one reason all of us with such diverse perspectives can join together in community and share so many values has a lot to do with our theological history. For example, as Unitarian historian Conrad Wright tells us, our denominational forebears, the Congregationalists, wrote in the Cambridge Platform of 1648 that the visible church is formed when people join together in a covenantal relationship that serves the larger good beyond the individual. Such sentiments can be found in covenantal relationships that were foundational to the initial New England congregations as far back as the 17th century. In fact, the Salem Covenant of 1629 said, among other things, that we covenant and do bind ourselves to walk together in truth. What's important about this covenant is that it doesn't say that we are bound together by our beliefs, and that approach is still central to Unitarian Universalism today. Even today, covenants serve their essential function to make churches out of a collection of individuals, to establish a values-based community that explores life's deepest questions. And we are all part of a growing congregational community, one that is welcoming Melinda, Julia, and Matthew into membership today. They and every member of our congregation pledge to uphold our covenant, to bind ourselves to walk together on this journey through life, and to honor our principles, as did those who came before us. Agreeing to that kind of covenant, being part of that kind of a community, well, that's a rare and powerful thing to do. And it's something not taken lightly or easily done in America these days. And so why do I say that? Have you ever heard of the book Bowling Alone? The book's subtitle, The Collapse and Revival of American Community. When the author Robert Putnam published it back in 2001, it sparked widespread discussion because it cited data about what it called the epidemic of loneliness in America. Putnam's research said Americans had become increasingly disconnected from one another, and he showed that social structures, like churches, had been, as he put it, disintegrating. In the quarter century that has followed, indications are that isolation and loneliness have only increased. And then during the pandemic, they reached even higher levels than before. It's not hard to conceive that breaking the bonds of community have been affecting people's mental health, but what's become clear is that those broken bonds can also directly impact our physical health. There's extensive data showing that ongoing isolation can lead to conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, dementia, and depression. Some experts have asserted that loneliness and social isolation are actually more dangerous than smoking and heart disease. They can boost anxiety, the risk of suicide, and even lead to premature death. In his book, Putnam argued that the glue that holds communities together comes primarily from the social ties forged at places like churches, community clubs, and he even points out at bowling leagues. Maybe those ties are also the glue that holds individual people together. After all, Dr. Mark Hyman of the Cleveland Clinic says that being part of a community can not only give us the power to heal ourselves, but it can even beneficially affect which of our genes are turned on or off. I find that quite amazing. Here at the UU Church of Anaheim, we understand the power of community. We intentionally promote inclusion and acceptance. We intentionally build beloved community. Does that mean that just by being part of this congregation, you might be reducing your risk of disease? Possibly even premature death? Well, that would be pretty amazing. But I think it does make sense that by joining others in community, we might find that we have less stress and more purpose in our lives. One reason is that by joining in community like this, that here we can ask for help if we need it. As George Odell once wrote, "We come to community when we mourn and would be comforted, when we are in trouble and afraid, when we need to be recalled to our best selves, when we would accomplish some great purpose. Throughout all our lives, we are in need, and others are in need of us." Here in this congregation, we can get support from others, and then in turn, give it back to others through service. Getting support is truly a wonderful thing, but giving of ourselves can also be very healthy, an uplifting thing to do. In fact, science studies show that acts of generosity, whether through volunteering, donating, or simply helping others, can lead to various positive outcomes, including reduced stress, improved mood, and even lower blood pressure. And being part of a loving, giving community like this can stir one sense of gratitude in us, and gratitude in itself is also good for our health. So about 18 years ago, I was on sabbatical from my position as Minister of Religious Education at an East Coast UU church. One of the first things I did was to go to a large church conference conducted by the staff of the UUA. Now, the church I was serving back then wasn't considered large by UUA standards. We had about 400 adult members, which they counted as mid-size. A large church would have been 550 or more. However, we did have a large religious education program, of which I was in charge. As the minister of RE, I was curious about what it would take for us to actually reach the large congregation category. I found that there should be no reason on earth why we couldn't do it. We met all the requirements. We had a good staff team, willing, wonderful, dedicated volunteers like we have here, healthy relationships, and we had an ample budget, which we could work on here. Yet, we never achieved that level of membership. We were basically stuck at the mid-size level. What was holding us back? Well, I knew that we gained about 10% in new members every year. And those new people would go through the new UU membership program run by our parish minister, and they would sign the book on a Sunday morning, like we did today, and be celebrated with a new member brunch. But then, can you guess what happened? Yeah, we would gradually lose about 10% of our membership during that year, every single year. You could say it was a revolving door congregation. Among those who study religious institutions, the best minds all say that when new people come into a congregation, if those individuals do not form friendships with at least 6 people in the first 6 months, they will be part of the revolving door. They may come into the sanctuary and stay for a while, but they will soon be out if the connections are not made. And that's why Reverend Reyna and I are planning to offer a class online in the fall where we can get to know one another more deeply and share our beliefs and values. On a trip to New York in 2016, the Reverend Erica Hewitt attended worship at a well-known progressive Christian church. Despite being warmly welcomed by the greeters, by the family sitting behind her, and also by the lead pastor, she couldn't shake that feeling of being a guest. And unbeknownst to her, she sat down in the pews reserved for the children's choir. Worship began, she wrote. We sang, we prayed. The children clattered up to the chancel and sang their hearts out as we rocked, clapped, and sang along with them. Shortly after they'd settled back into their seats around me, the pastor invited the congregation to say the Lord's Prayer in any language or words that were meaningful to them. As I recited the prayer, she says, I closed my eyes. Then they popped open when I felt someone's hand slip into mine. That small brown hand curled around mine, belonging to an 11-year-old boy, the same child who, when I whispered, "Great job," to him after the choir sang, had shyly looked at his shoes. But then I realized all of us were holding hands across the sanctuary, and the young boy had confidently reached out for the hand of a stranger. That matter-of-fact gesture, I may not know you, but this is what we do here, was an announcement of belonging. It claimed me as something larger. Here at our church, we hold hands when we sing our final hymn, Go Now in Peace, at the end of the service. So we obviously understand the point Reverend Hewitt was making. Yes, you belong here. Here, instead of talking about revenge and despair, we create conditions for hope, forgiveness, and love. And we can all do that for each of us, all of us. It doesn't matter whether we've been here for 20 minutes or 20 years. We certainly hope that everyone can find a spiritual home in this congregation, and we hope that everyone can fully feel like a member of this community. But for that desire to be wholly realized, we need to be consciously and actively thinking about turning strangers into friends and warmly inviting each other into community and connection. Again, this congregation clearly understands Reverend Hewitt's point. I mean, we're talking about reaching out and inviting others into community. Well, isn't that why we have meet and greet time every Sunday, a ritual we so obviously enjoy? And so we already believe in and are committed to the value of building and maintaining community. We already enjoy welcoming visitors, and it's so exciting that we have a program committee that invites us into connection with fun activities like going to the movies together, organizing game night, and now we're enjoying ourselves at fundraisers for our new HVAC system. We can't wait. And for visitors and members just joining us, we encourage you to reach in as we reach out. Look, I know the majority of Unitarian Universalists are introverts. I'm a borderline introvert myself, but don't let that stop anyone from offering a helping hand, sharing their gifts, and connecting with one another. That may be the greatest gift of all. Here at this church, we care for one another. We help each other explore society's and life's deepest questions. We try to give each other the tools and environment in which to articulate our own individual answers. We each do our part to help bring out the best in each other. Take my word for it. Those are truly things worth sharing. Right now, at this moment in time, they are things that many, many people need. People all around us, right here in Anaheim. We are all aching for connection, for caring, for community, for the gifts that we have to offer. And in fact, offer that to each other and to those beyond our doors. We will have given great gifts indeed. So may it be.